Hello everyone. Earlier today at around 5 a.m. I made a video talking about how the ATF actually went after Polymer 80, a company who makes AR and Glock clone, I guess, 80% lowers. Now what they also happened to sell was what they called a buy build shoot kit. The buy build shoot kit is a kit that contains the 80% firearm, the jig, the bits, and all the other parts to assemble it into a firearm. It has been long withheld by the ATF that an 80% lower is the general standard that they would consider, or 80% manufactured, to be the standard at which they hold a non-firearm object becoming a firearm. On Thursday, the ATF went after and raided the actual field office of Polymer 80. The problem with this is that it opens up a whole lot of questions that we have as far as what's legal, what's not. Is this going to affect other manufacturers? Well, John Crump, the man who informed us about the whole SB Tactical pistol brace debacle, actually got some leaked documents from someone inside the ATF showing that it's going to get a whole lot worse before it gets any better, and it's going to get a whole lot more confusing before it gets any more clear. So before we get going, I want to say thank you to the sponsor of this channel, Franklin Armory, huge supporter of me, huge supporter of the state of California. Check out their CA7, CA11, and CA12 pistol. If you're in a free state, as much as we can really call that nowadays, check out their Franklin Armory binary triggers. They're super awesome. Every time you pull the trigger, every time you release the trigger, it goes off. Lets you shoot really, really fast, very accurately, mind you. Man, I am the worst at ad reads. Whoa, not supposed to see that. So let's talk about this article and what's actually going on, because this is a pretty big issue. Because if it was just the buy build shoot kits that the ATF was considering readily converted to expel a projectile, and now that's the thing. The law nowhere states 80% manufactured is manufactured enough to be considered a firearm. That's just what the ATF considers readily convertible to expel a projectile. Some big points that we got to talk about today that's going to be mentioned in this article. The ATF is going after the personal information of people who bought firearms. Getting a subpoena for credit card records of someone that makes a transaction is very easy for the ATF and legal government agencies to go after. It's not affecting just stripped lowers. As it stands right now, an 80% lower is still legal to buy. However, it gets a whole lot complicated what's considered a build kit and what the ATF considers readily converted to expel. So let's talk about it today in this article. Again, I want to say thank you to John Crump, the journalist and the investigator that's been working on this and kind of bringing more information to light. This week, the ATF has shown up at multiple shooting sports related companies and retailers' door to demand customer information about those American citizens who legally purchased 80% pistol frames. Now, the federal agency is demanding the customer information that those purchased the buy build shoot kits or build buy shoot kits. If you hear me say BBS kits, that's what I'm referring to as. I think that's just the easiest way for us to all say it, so I don't have to say it 100 times. The apparent change in regulations, according to the ATF internal documents obtained by AmmoLand News, shows that the agency blames the rise of crimes using built from 80% frames. The documents also claim that federal courts have repeatedly held that the GCA's firearm definition applies to a collection of unassembled firearms parts, including firearms parts kits. The ATF also states that build-by-shoot kits are firearms because the kits are designed to or may readily be converted to expel a projectile. In just the last 90 days, the ATF has said that certain pistols may be too long, too heavy to be importable. Next, they noted that certain pistol braces were not permissible unless the company submits every single variation for classification. Now, we all said that this was coming when it came to bump stocks. Everybody said, oh, bump stocks are lame. Anyone that said bump stocks are lame and didn't care when they were banned then, you're the worst. You are truly the worst. We knew it was coming. We knew this was going to happen. Here it is. It's only going to get worse when Biden is president. It's not been good since Trump is president. And with the ATF recently meeting with Biden and his administration, we know what their priorities are. They went out and said it, 80% in braces. They want to get rid of them. Here's where we're going. Now, they're saying that 80% frames and receivers require a case-by-case analysis that is dependent on the facts. Basically, what they're saying is that we are not going to give you the exact outline of what you can and cannot sell. However, if you happen to sell this jig with the lower, with the parts, with some parts, but not all the parts, we're going to look at that on a case-by-case basis and evaluate whether or not they consider that readily convertible to a firearm frame. Now, does this mean that a manufacturer is only going to be able to sell in one checkout item just the lower, and then maybe in another transaction sell the jig and all the other parts? Maybe. We don't know. Until we have any actual case law and someone gets busted for this, unfortunately, or in the very unlikely event that the ATF actually goes out of their way to define what they do and don't consider a firearms build, buy, shoot kit or a firearms parts kit, we really don't know. As of right now, still I need to reiterate, 80% lowers still legal. Also, buying a 3D printer is also still legal, which you might have heard in the background while making this video. So here's how it works. In practice, what that means. Gun store has an audit. A random investigator or a random person that does the audits shows up at the gun store, says, hey, I want to look at your bound books. I want to make sure you're doing everything up to snuff, making sure you're all up to code. They're going to look at their stuff. They might see on the shelf a buy, build, shoot kit or a BBS kit. They see that BBS kit, they call an investigator or they call a special agent, who is someone who actually has powers to arrest and is an actual law enforcement officer with the ATF. They show up and then they look at it and determine, is this enough to make a criminal investigation? Are they breaking the law? In their opinion, that's the big key takeaway. They're going to look at each one on a case-by-case basis and determine whether or not that was actually breaking the law, which is absolutely ridiculous. So now, one of the companies that was also visited was Brownells, and here's the quote from Brownells that they got. The ATF did visit our facility on Thursday, December 10th, 2020, said Ryan Rep, Brownells VP of Marketing. It's my understanding they inquired about our sales of the Polymer 80 buy, build, shoot kit. Brownells has not and does not sell that kit. Polymer 80 continues to be a great partner for Brownells. We proudly sell their 80% products and other parts. Now, here's the thing. Brownells isn't going to be giving out their information because they did not sell any of these. But any manufacturer, any company that is selling these build, buy, shoot kits is most likely or has already been visited by the ATF. It seems like it's going to be even worse. It seems like the ATF is going to be going out to more companies that sell similar products. So again, more information, the moral of the story, what is actually going on, let's sum it up. The ATF went around to Polymer 80 as well as a bunch of other manufacturers who were selling what was called a build, buy, shoot kit or a BBS kit. Those BBS kits are basically a non-firearm, meaning an 80% lower with all of the other parts, all of the other tools, except for basically like a drill press or some files that you would need in order to build it. This is kind of concerning to me because at what point does it end? Does a company selling a 80% lower with the jig, so for example, 80% Arms, they've supported me in the past, or they sent me out an 80% receiver. If they also were to sell the tools, if they were also to sell the jigs at the same time, would that be considered a kit? Because that is it readily convertible? Not really. It's not a firearm. It's still not a firearm. So at what point does the ATF consider it really a readily convertible? Can a manufacturer sell all the parts except for the lower and then in a separate transaction sell to that same person the lower? We really don't know. It's this vague ambiguity that's going to be what gets people in trouble. If you are a FFL in the state of California or anywhere in the nation, and right now you have some of the build, buy, shoot kits, probably not good. I would personally, and this is not legal advice, maybe separate them. We really don't know what the ATF is going to consider because any field agent could go to any gun store right now, look around, and if they see the build, buy, shoot kit, that would definitely be something that they would confiscate and maybe consider taking legal action. But would they also consider that same thing illegal if it was the lower over here, all the other parts over here? Is that readily convertible? We really don't know. There's a whole lot of ambiguity, and I think that's really what makes this dangerous. If you have any questions, drop a comment down below. I'm going to leave a link to the AmmoLand article from John Crump, but you guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.